My name is Gary Adkins, and I'm the incoming president of the American Numismatic Association. A while back, we were fortunate enough to enter into discussions with CDN Publishing, who obviously publishes the Coin Dealer newsletter, and we entered into talks about how we could partner together to better provide information to the collecting community in the form of a price guide. And so we worked out the details of that, and I'm proud to say that we have partnered with CDN Publishing to produce the collector's price guide. You'll see that in our numismatist. That's going to be a rotating basis. So every month, a different type of coin will be presented in the numismatist, and we think that's going to be a valuable tool for collectors. So I'm here today to introduce Ian Perez from CDN Publishing, and Patrick's going to tell you a little bit more about the details of this. So again, thank you very much for attending, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Gary. Once again, thank you guys for being here today. So what I'm going to do today is discuss a little bit about the CPG and what it is and kind of the concept behind it. But before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what the collector's price guide is, I kind of wanted to go back because I think it's important in anything in life, coin collecting, your career, whatever it is, to reflect on where you've been to know where you're going. And as a coin industry and as a coin market, I think it's important that we do that. So if you go back 50 years, collectors really had one source of pricing, the Red Book. And so they would use that to base their purchases on. And at that time, information was very tightly held amongst the dealer community. If you read writings of that era, the top dealers were very reluctant to share information with collectors unless you were one of their prized clients. And you kind of see that in the collections of Eliasberg, Pittman, Amon Carter, all these people who kind of knew a lot more than the average collector because they were, quote, on the inside. And so then it was the Red Book. And then two things happened that really changed coin collecting forever: third-party grading and the internet. And what that did, third-party grading made collectors know how to grade in an instant. So that was really the edge that dealers had over most collectors prior to third-party grading, is that, because as we know, it takes such a long time to learn how to properly grade a coin, that most collectors were not able to devote that kind of time to learn it. So third-party grading comes along, and wow, all of a sudden I know at a glance what an MS-65 coin looks like. And it greatly expanded the base of buyers for coins. And the second thing is the internet, which, as we know, is the basis of pretty much all information that we gather today. So in a relatively short period of time, 25 years or so, collectors went from being in the dark, so to speak, to having a tremendous amount of information at their fingertips. And so how do you distill all this information? So you fast forward to today, you can access population reports from the third-party grading companies, you can access transactions on eBay, you can access auction prices realized, you can access dealer sell sheets, retail sheets, tremendous amount of information. So that now the struggle is not to get information, the struggle is to make sense of it all. How do you distill a tremendous, vast amount of information into a price? And the great thing about CDN is that they've essentially been doing this since 1963. So as the wholesale sheet of the coin industry, when it started, it was teletape, and as different information systems have come and gone, CDN takes a large amount of information and distills it down into an easy-to-read price guide. And so we realized, John and myself, realized that for a very long time, dealers have been using the gray sheet to transact and do business with each other. But collectors had something else, whether it was the Red Book or Coin World or all these different other retail, quote-unquote, retail price guides out there. So there was a disconnect. And it's kind of unique. If you look at any other market, groceries, auto parts, whatever it is, the suppliers have a wholesale price sheet and a retail price sheet, MSRP. So there's a connection between what the dealers pay and what they sell for. And so we said, well, in the coin market, this should be the same. So after kind of distilling through a couple of ideas and thinking of some things, we said, why isn't there a retail price guide that's based on gray sheet wholesale numbers? And that's really how CPG, Collector's Price Guide, was born. So the CPG number that you see in the numismatist and also on our website is a collector number, a collector price that is directly based on the gray sheet wholesale price. And the important thing to understand with that is that as the wholesale price moves, also the retail price moves, because it's based on a proprietary formula where you take the wholesale price that you see published in the gray sheet that dealers use to buy and sell coins, which is based on dealer bids, auction prices realized, anecdotal dealer information, and our own experience as former dealers, to now create a retail price. Our hope is that this becomes a reliable number that collectors can use to purchase coins. Now, of course, guides are just that, they're guides. And it is, as we all know, virtually impossible to put one number on a given coin for so many different reasons. Eye appeal, toning, all these different types of things that affect what an individual coin would sell for in a given grade. However, since the CPG price is based on real-time wholesale values, we feel that it will be a reliable and trustworthy source that collectors can use to purchase coins, and also from which to negotiate when they're buying coins from their dealer. As far as where the CPG is available, as Gary mentioned, it's published in the Numismatist every month on a rotating basis, and it basically goes by denomination. So one month we'll have half cents through dimes, for instance, and then quarters and half dollars in the following month, and then dollars and higher denominated gold, and it will rotate on a continuous basis. And I think number one, it looks beautiful in the Numismatist. The layout is outstanding. I think it's easy to read. And then it's also available on the graysheet.com website, and coming very, very soon on the mobile application that we will be releasing, which I have a sample of here on a tablet if you'd like to come and look at it afterwards. And again, for those who are subscribers to the gray sheet, you'll be able to see the blue sheet price, the gray sheet price, and the CPG price all together. So it gives a very, very fast reference to understand the spreads between wholesale and retail, which I think really brings a lot of power to both the dealer and the collector, and it brings confidence. And I think to give collectors incentives to add to their collection and to continue supporting our market, it's about confidence. If a collector is happy with what he pays and he feels like he's getting a square deal, he's going to continue to collect coins. And I think that is something that is extremely important going forward.
There seems to be a double market, a secondary market. Dealers, when they're buying and selling between themselves, they usually pay less than the CDN prices, in my experience. Or a collector selling to a dealer would get less than the CDN prices. So there seems to be a disconnect.
Absolutely, and that's something that we've been working very hard to address. Now, a dealer is going to conduct his business however he deems, beneficial for him. But we absolutely, when we took over CDN, we understood that was something that was prevalent. And although it's very difficult to break long-standing habits, it's something that we're addressing by having more accurate pricing, wholesale pricing. But again, our goal is not to guide the market, it is to report as accurate prices as possible.
So in that regard, how often will you be updating the price list?
The CPG is actually constant. So we have a few different publications. We have the Gray Sheet Weekly, we have the monthly and the quarterly, and those prices will be updated correspondingly. But we are moving to be a much faster operation, in the sense where we don't want to wait. If a coin, like for instance, $20 gold pieces are listed in the quarterly, which means they only come out every 3 months. But we don't feel it's right to necessarily wait 3 months to update prices on, let's say, $20 liberties. So we're doing it essentially in real time. And that's why we're really kind of emphasizing the online aspect of our price reporting, because it happens when we make a change in the sheet, it's live to our website the day that it's released to our subscriber base. So to answer the question, is really every day the CPG prices are updated.
What's a typical spread between the CDN gray sheet level and the new collector level in terms of percentage? Is there a range that you might fall into?
Number one, that's a great question. Our formula is proprietary, but it is not I will say that it's not a standard markup across the board.
Right. Just
Every,
to get a feel for the range.
every series, every grade, every price level has a different formula applied to it based on how it actually trades. So of course, generic gold trades for a much smaller percentage markup than a high grade seeded half dollar. So we factor that information into our CPG pricing. But there is no percentage, so to speak. It's really based on the value of the coin and the frequency with which it trades. The accuracy part I'll leave to your opinion or your real world experience, but as far as the frequency, yes, as I mentioned, we update our wholesale prices constantly, and the minute our wholesale prices change, the CPG price will be calculated at the same time. So if you open up your weekly gray sheet and you see a Morgan dollar with a plus that indicates price movement, that same coin and grade has also changed on the CPG. Yes, the ideal situation is to create a spread, and naturally, PQ coins are going to sell for higher than CPG prices in most cases, but it gives you, as a collector or as a dealer, a kind of spread to work within.
The guide that NGC publishes, how does that correlate with your guide?
It doesn't. We don't have anything to do with any of the third-party grading service price guides. They take care of that within their own house, and we haven't collaborated in any way with that. So that's their own kind of business, so we haven't touched it yet.
And then a lot of this is a reaction to exactly where you started, and then because what happened was to make gray sheet more accurate on a weekly basis, which is what we're trying to do all the time. Whenever we know or have news of a price inaccuracy, that's when we act to correct it. And we don't want to hear that the market's trading coins below our numbers if we can, so then we lower it. But then what happens is a natural knee-jerk reaction is the dealer community comes back to us and says, you're lowering prices and everybody wants to buy back of our numbers, and now we can't buy back of the numbers. We say that's great because that's what our numbers are supposed to be. They're supposed to be accurate. However, CPG was born out of a number of ideas, as Patrick, or reactions to a number of responses from people, and the one thing we realized was that if we get the numbers accurate, then we have to have give dealers a spread to work within. And of course, coins don't trade always at the same number. So, a guide is just that. If we value a coin for $1,000, I mean, you could hope to buy that coin maybe for $1,000. You could maybe hope if you can get it for $950, you could be happy about that. And but if you love the coin and the dealer says I want $1,200, at least $1,000 gives you a guidance to that. But what we found was that the other publications also didn't track with us. Now, in a lot of cases, we're all in very similar form, but they're not always in similar form. So we felt the need to create this spread. Now, another thing that we have done in the last 2 years that led to this was the gray sheet publication would have a bid-ask quote column. So the bid-ask quote column was always 10%. That was almost always exactly 10% more than the bid. And so people complained about the ask column because it's not truly an ask number. It was an arbitrary number that CDN had used to say, well, if a bid is 1,000, then ask is 1,100. Well, most dealers, nobody wants to be told, first of all, what to ask. The ask is based on you own a coin. I shouldn't tell you what to ask. So we decided that it was better to be monolithic with the bid, and the bid is really evolving away from a literal bid. It's really a market indicator of the value, of the wholesale value. And so then we created a CPG reaction to give more of a spread, to people to work within, so they can, have some latitude in there. So all of these ideas are sort of fluidly developed along the lines of just reactions to people talking to us. And the meeting that we're having here today and the people we talk to at every show always affect and inform Patrick and I as we do pricing so that we can continue to evolve. But we're not fixed at where we are today with how we do it, and we're going to continue to evolve because the market continues to evolve.
And one thing I wanted to add is that the grades that we report in the newsletters have been fixed for forever. You know, they've XF, VF, AU, 63, 45. But one of our goals with CPG is to also price coins in split grades. XF 45, AU 53, AU 55, VF 30. Because especially when you get into early, federal stuff, coins have pretty big spreads between those grades. And so that's one of the great advantages of the website and the app. We're not limited by the physical pages of our newsletter. So we have CPG pricing in a lot of grades that are not necessarily printed in the wholesale price guide, which I think is something that's really important for collectors. Because sometimes, hey, you can't have, MS63 is a little bit too expensive for you. What's an MS61? And so we think that's something that will be very helpful. So be sure to check out the website. And I will say, if you've never been before, graysheet.com. On the top, there's a navigation bar. There's a tab that says resources. You click resources, and that's where you will find the CPG pricing on every US coin series. And coming soon, all US currency as well, which will be based on the wholesale green sheet prices. CPG prices are free for everyone. You do not have to be a subscriber. But the great thing is that if you are a subscriber, it's just one tab. You can click back and forth to see the CPG price and the wholesale price. So if you're going through coins, you're very fast. You're clicking back and forth. And yes. So if you're a subscriber, you log in, and you're able to see both wholesale and retail.
So you don't look at like recent auctions?
Wholesale transaction. No, it's a combination of auction prices, dealer bids, anecdotal evidence that we know of, transactions, on the bourse floor, for instance. No, we take as much. Our goal is to use as many data points as possible. Of course, we exclude auction results that are of a particular age. We want stuff that's recent. But other than that, yeah, we look at everything. And I think it's important to mention too that when we look at an auction price, we don't just look at the price. We look at the coin, which is really critical in today's market. We look, obviously, is it CAC? What does the coin look like? Was there 20 of this same coin sold in the auction in a row? We think about it a little bit rather than just say, oh, it sold for 4,000. That's the price. Always the final, yeah, with hammer plus buyer's premium. Yeah, we don't look at just hammer. Anything else? Well, once again, thank you very much for attending. Be sure to take a copy of the numismatist. And if you have any feedback, please stop by our table or talk to John or I, or send us one thing that's also I should mention that's important. At any time, people that have feedback, send us an email, editor@graysheet.com. We really take it quite serious that we answer every email that we get, especially if it's about pricing or our methodology, because we think transparency is quite important in pricing coins.